Did you know that some of R&B's biggest stars battled with drug addiction? From Bobby Brown, who was allegedly kidnapped by the New York gang, the Preacher Crew over a $25,000 drug debt, to Etta James, whose addiction led her to commit crimes such as forging prescriptions, writing bad checks, and stealing from friends to support her habit. Here are the 15 worst drug addictions in R&B history. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston was an American singer, actress, and film producer, widely regarded as one of the greatest vocalists of all time. Her debut album, Whitney Houston, remains the best-selling R&B studio album by a female artist in history, and her powerful voice, unmatched range, and emotional depth made her a global icon. With international hits like I Will Always Love You and Greatest Love of All, she dominated the music industry for decades. However, behind the glamour and success, Houston battled a long and devastating struggle with addiction. By the late 1990s, her drug use had become increasingly public. In May 2000, Houston's longtime executive assistant and friend, Robin Crawford, resigned from Houston's management company. In her 2019 memoir, A Song for You, My Life with Whitney Houston, Crawford said she had left after Houston declined to seek help for her drug dependency, though Houston would claim in an interview that they parted ways over Houston's husband. Rolling Stone published a story in June 2000 stating that Cissy Houston and others had held a July 1999 intervention in which they unsuccessfully attempted to persuade Whitney to obtain drug treatment. In her 2009 interview with Oprah Winfrey, she openly admitted that her drug use worsened after the massive success of The Bodyguard and the birth of her daughter, Bobby Christina. She said, "By 1996, it was an everyday thing. I wasn't happy anymore." Her struggles continued into the 2000s, leading her to multiple stints in rehab. In May 2011, she checked into treatment once again, calling it part of her long-standing recovery process. Tragically, on February 11, 2012, Houston was found unconscious in the bathtub of her suite at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. Witnesses reported that in the days leading up to her death, she had been acting erratically. Paramedics attempted CPR but were unable to revive her. The official cause of death was determined to be an accidental drowning, with cocaine use and heart disease as contributing factors. Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was one of the greatest soul singers of all time. He shaped the sound of Motown with hits like How Sweet It Is, To Be Loved by You, Ain't That Peculiar, and I Heard It Through the Grapevine. Fans loved his smooth voice and deep emotional lyrics. But behind the scenes, Marvin struggled with drug addiction, which would eventually take a heavy toll on his life. Marvin first tried drugs in 1960 while touring with the Motown Revue. At first, it seemed harmless, but as the years passed, his drug use grew worse. In the 1970s, he became heavily addicted to cocaine, and while living in London, he started freebasing. He also experimented with PCP, a drug known for causing paranoia and erratic behavior. As his addiction worsened, Marvin became more withdrawn and unstable. His paranoia grew, and he started fearing for his life. He also suffered from deep depression, attempting to kill himself several times. In 1969, after the collapse of his marriage, he tried to shoot himself. Just days before his tragic death in 1984, he attempted to end his life again by jumping out of a speeding car, but he survived with only minor injuries. The drugs also affected his music career. Marvin hated touring, and his addictions made it even harder for him to perform. He once admitted that while touring, his drug use tripled. Janis Joplin. Janis. Lynn Joplin was an American singer and songwriter known for her raw, bluesy voice and electrifying stage presence. As one of the most influential rock performers of her era, she rose to fame after her explosive performance at the 1967 Monterey Pop Festival with the psychedelic rock band Big Brother and the Holding Company. Her powerful vocals and emotional delivery set her apart, making her one of the defining voices of the late 1960s. After leaving Big Brother and the Holding Company, Joplin formed the Cosmic Blues Band, incorporating a more R&B and soul-inspired sound influenced by artists like Otis Redding and the Bar-Kays. Later, she assembled the Full Tilt Boogie Band, which accompanied her on her final recordings. However, Joplin's career was overshadowed by her struggles with substance abuse. Her addiction to heroin, combined with heavy drinking, particularly her fondness for Southern comfort, took a serious toll on her health and stability. By early 1969, she was reportedly spending the equivalent of thousands of dollars per day on heroin. Efforts were made to keep her clean while recording "I Got Dem Old Cosmic Blues, Again Mama," but she continued to battle addiction. On the evening of October 4, 1970, Joplin was found dead in her room at the Landmark Motor Hotel in Los Angeles by her road manager, John Byrne Cook. While initial reports suggested no drugs were found in her room, later investigations revealed that narcotics had likely been removed from the scene before authorities arrived. An autopsy confirmed that she had died from a heroin overdose, compounded by alcohol use. Despite her short career, Janis Joplin remains one of the most celebrated and influential singers of all time. Etta James. Etta James was an American singer and songwriter whose powerful and soulful voice made her one of the most influential figures in blues, R&B, jazz, and rock and roll. Beginning her career in the 1950s, she rose to fame with timeless classics such as "The Wallflower," "At Last," "Something's Got a Hold on Me," "Tell Mama," and "I'd Rather Go Blind." Her music bridged the gap between R&B and rock, influencing generations of artists. Over her career, she won 15 Grammy Awards and 17 Blues Music Awards, cementing her legacy as a music icon. However, behind her success, James struggled with heroin addiction for much of her life. By the mid-1960s, her addiction led her to commit crimes such as forging prescriptions, writing bad checks, and stealing from friends to support her habit. In 1966, she was arrested for writing bad checks and was sentenced to probation and a $500 fine. Her struggles continued, and in 1969 she spent 10 days in jail for violating her probation. James was in and out of rehabilitation centers, including the Tarzana Treatment Centers in Los Angeles. Her husband, Artis Mills, took the fall when they were both arrested for heroin possession, serving a 10-year prison sentence. Even after her release, she continued to struggle with substance abuse. In 1973, she was arrested again for heroin possession, and in 1974, she was sentenced to drug treatment instead of prison. During this time, she became addicted to methadone, which she often combined with heroin. She spent 17 months at the Tarzana Psychiatric Hospital, beginning at age 36, a period she later described in her 1995 autobiography, Rage to Survive, as life-changing. Despite these challenges, James remained a celebrated performer and continued to record music throughout her life. She overcame many of her struggles in her later years and was honored with numerous awards, including an induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Etta James passed away on January 20, 2012, at the age of 73 after battling leukemia. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix was an American guitarist, songwriter, and singer, widely regarded as one of the greatest and most influential guitarists in the history of popular music. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1992 as part of his band, the Jimi Hendrix Experience. Hendrix's unique musical voice blended blues, R&B, soul, British rock, American folk, 1950s rock and roll, and jazz, creating a revolutionary guitar style that continues to inspire musicians today. Before rising to fame, Hendrix worked as a backing musician for several well-known soul, R&B, and blues artists, including Wilson Pickett, Slim Harpo, Sam Cooke, Ike and Tina Turner, and Jackie Wilson. In 1965, he briefly signed with Juggy Murray's Sue Records before joining the Isley Brothers for a second time, recording Move Over and Let Me Dance, backed with Have You Ever Been Disappointed. Later that year, he joined Curtis Knight and the Squires, playing with them for 8 months. Hendrix's experimentation with drugs began in the mid-1960s. Before that, he had only used cannabis, hashish, amphetamines, and occasionally cocaine. His first encounter with LSD reportedly occurred in late 1966 when he met Linda Keith, though some sources argue he only began using it regularly after attending the Monterey Pop Festival in June 1967. According to biographer Charles Cross, Hendrix's inexperience with psychedelics was evident when he mistakenly asked for LSD instead of acid. By 1967, Hendrix's drug use had become more serious. He regularly used cannabis, hashish, LSD, and amphetamines, particularly while touring. His lifestyle and substance use contributed to both his creative energy and his struggles. On September 18, 1970, Hendrix was found unresponsive in his London apartment and was later pronounced dead. His cause of death was asphyxiation due to barbiturate intoxication. Bobby Brown. Bobby Brown Sr. is an American singer, songwriter, rapper, and dancer. He is widely recognized as a pioneer of New Jack Swing, a genre that fuses hip-hop and R&B. Brown first rose to fame as a founding member of the R&B pop group New Edition, contributing to hits like Candy Girl, Cool It Now, and Mr. Telephone Man. After leaving the group in 1985, he launched a successful solo career, achieving mainstream success with albums such as Don't Be Cruel. He later reunited with New Edition for their 1996 album Home Again, which reached #1 on the Billboard 200. His struggles with substance abuse began at an early age. Brown stated that marijuana was his drug of choice and that he also developed alcoholism at a young age. While he had experimented with other substances, he claimed that he did not use cocaine until after meeting Whitney Houston, whom he married in 1992. Throughout the 1990s, Brown's drug addiction worsened. He reportedly began cooking cocaine and using heroin. In 1993, his drug habits led to a dangerous situation when he was allegedly kidnapped by the New York gang, the Preacher Crew, over a $25,000 drug debt. According to former gang member David Collins, Houston paid a $400,000 ransom to secure Brown's release, and the incident was never reported to law enforcement. If you are enjoying this video, appreciate it by giving it a thumbs up, and if you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button. Rick James. Rick James was an American singer, songwriter, and record producer. He became famous in the late 1970s after forming the Stone City Band in his hometown of Buffalo, New York. In 1978, James signed with Motown's Gordy Records and released his breakthrough album, Come Get It, which produced the hits You and I and Mary Jane. His most commercially successful album, Street Songs, solidified his legacy with hits like Give It to Me Baby and Super Freak, the latter becoming a defining crossover track that blended funk, disco, rock, and new wave elements. James's struggles with substance abuse began in his teenage years, first experimenting with marijuana and heroin before moving on to cocaine in the late 1960s. His drug use escalated significantly in the 1980s and 1990s, eventually leading to severe health issues. In April 1984, he was found unconscious at his home and hospitalized. By the 1990s, his cocaine addiction was well known, and he later admitted to spending roughly $7,000 per week on drugs for 5 years straight. His years of substance abuse also contributed to lasting physical damage. In 1998, James suffered a stroke after a blood vessel ruptured in his neck during a concert at Mile High Stadium in Denver. That same year, he underwent hip replacement surgery due to the cumulative effects of years of stage performances and drug use. James's personal life was further marred by serious legal troubles. In August 1991, he and his girlfriend, Tanya Hijazi, were arrested on multiple charges, including kidnapping, assault, and torture. The victim, 24-year-old Frances Alley, alleged that James had held her captive for up to 6 days, burned her with a crack pipe, and forced her to engage in intimate acts during a prolonged cocaine binge. Facing a maximum sentence of life in prison, James was out on bail when he committed a second assault in November 1992. Under the influence of cocaine, he allegedly kidnapped and assaulted music executive Mary Sauger at the St. James Club and Hotel in West Hollywood, holding her for 20 hours. James Brown. James Brown was one of the most electrifying performers in music history. He revolutionized music with his creation of funk and left an everlasting impact on R&B, soul, and hip-hop. Brown was one of the first 10 inductees into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame on January 23, 1986. His music has been heavily sampled by hip-hop musicians and other artists. His high-energy performances, signature dance moves, and powerful voice made him a legend. By the mid-1980s, rumors were widespread that Brown was using drugs regularly. His friend Vicki Anderson later confirmed that his PCP use started before 1982. When he married Adriana Rodriguez in 1984, the two began using PCP together, which led to violent outbursts. Brown was arrested multiple times for domestic abuse while under the influence. His drug use spiraled further out of control. By 1988, he had been arrested 4 times in 1 year for driving violations, gun possession, and PCP use. In April 1988, after another arrest for domestic abuse, Brown appeared on CNN's Sonia Live in L.A. The interview became infamous because of his unusual behavior, which many believed he was high on drugs at the time. A former mistress later revealed in GQ magazine that Brown smoked PCP and cocaine, often mixing it with tobacco and cool cigarettes. At one point, while driving under the influence of PCP, he became so paranoid that he believed the trees were filled with surveillance technology. By the late 1990s, Brown's addiction continued. In January 1998, he checked into rehab for prescription drug addiction, but just 1 week after leaving, he was arrested again, this time for gun possession and cannabis use. In December 2006, Brown was admitted to Emory University Hospital. A toxicology test found traces of cocaine in his urine. His widow later claimed that Brown would often smoke crack cocaine with a female friend, Elvis Presley. Elvis Presley, famously known as the King of Rock and Roll, was one of the most influential cultural figures of the 20th century. He rose to fame in the 1950s after signing with Sun Records, where producer Sam Phillips helped him craft a sound that introduced African American music to mainstream white audiences. In 1973, Elvis overdosed on barbiturates twice. The first time, he fell into a coma for 3 days in his hotel room. Later that year, he was hospitalized for an addiction to pethidine, a strong painkiller. His personal doctor, George Nicopolis, said that Elvis believed getting drugs from a doctor made it different from being an addict on the street. But his health continued to worsen. By September 1973, Elvis was in terrible shape. During a concert at the University of Maryland, he stumbled out of his limousine and collapsed to his knees. When people rushed to help him, he pushed them away and forced himself onto the stage. For the first 30 minutes of the show, he clung to the microphone stand, barely able to stand on his own. His band members were in shock. Guitarist John Wilkinson later recalled saying, "He was all gut. He was slurring. He was so messed up. It was obvious there was something terribly wrong with his body. He could barely get through the introductions." In his final years, Elvis's performances became sad and difficult to watch. According to Rolling Stone journalist Andy Green, his last concerts were sloppy affairs where a bloated, heavily drugged Elvis struggled to remember his lyrics and stay on his feet. In 1977, a book titled Elvis, What Happened was published by 3 of his former bodyguards. It exposed his years of drug addiction. Heartbroken by the book, Elvis even tried to stop its release by offering the publishers money. By that time, his health was failing. He suffered from glaucoma, high blood pressure, liver damage, and an enlarged colon, all of which were worsened by drug abuse. On August 16, 1977, Elvis Presley was found unresponsive at his home in Graceland. The official cause of death was cardiac arrest, but initial reports claimed that drugs played no role. However, 2 months later, lab results showed 14 different drugs in his system, 10 of them at dangerous levels. In 1979, forensic expert Cyril Wecht reviewed the case and concluded that Elvis had died from an accidental overdose of prescription medications. Ray Charles, Ray Charles was an American singer, songwriter, and pianist. Despite losing his eyesight as a child, possibly due to glaucoma, he never let that stop him. In the 1950s, he helped create soul music by mixing blues, jazz, gospel, and rhythm and blues. Charles had multiple singles reach the top 40 on various Billboard charts: 44 on the U.S. R&B singles chart, 11 on the Hot 100 singles chart, and 2 on the Hot Country singles charts. At just 18 years old, Charles first experimented with marijuana while playing in the Maxon Trio. He believed it helped musicians tap into their creativity, but his drug use didn't stop there. He later became addicted to heroin, a habit that lasted 17 years. His first arrest came in 1955 when he and his bandmates were caught backstage with marijuana, a burnt spoon, a syringe, and a needle. This didn't stop him. As his career and wealth grew, so did his addiction. In 1958, police arrested Charles on a Harlem street corner for possessing narcotics and drug paraphernalia. By then, heroin had a firm grip on his life. His most serious legal trouble came on November 14, 1961, when he was arrested in an Indiana hotel room before a performance. Police found heroin, marijuana, and other drug-related items. Facing serious charges, Charles admitted that he had been addicted to heroin since he was 16 years old. However, the case was dismissed due to procedural issues with how the evidence was collected. Despite this, Charles continued struggling with addiction. One of his most serious arrests happened on Halloween night in 1964 at Boston's Logan Airport, where he was caught with heroin. After this incident, he checked himself into St. Francis Hospital in California. He went through 4 days of painful withdrawal without any medication. When he left the hospital, he pleaded guilty to drug charges. Prosecutors wanted him to serve 2 years in prison, but the judge saw that Charles was serious about quitting drugs. Instead, he was sent to McLean Hospital in Massachusetts for treatment. A year later, Charles returned to court and received a suspended 5-year sentence, 4 years of probation, and a $10,000 fine. Natalie Cole. Natalie Cole was an American singer, songwriter, and actress, best known for her smooth blend of R&B, soul, and jazz. As the daughter of legendary jazz pianist and singer Nat King Cole, she grew up surrounded by music, but carved out her own successful career. She rose to prominence in the mid-1970s with the release of her debut album, Inseparable, which featured the hit song This Will Be, An Everlasting Love, and the album's title track. The album's success earned her the Grammy Award for Best New Artist at the 18th Annual Grammy Awards, making her the first African-American recipient of the award and the first R&B act to win it. Despite her professional success, Cole battled drug addiction for much of her life. In her 2000 autobiography, Angel on My Shoulder, she detailed her struggles with heroin and crack cocaine. Cole's drug use began during her time at the University of Massachusetts Amherst, where she initially engaged in recreational use before becoming dependent. In 1975, the same year she achieved stardom, she was arrested in Toronto, Canada, for heroin possession. Her addiction soon spiraled out of control, leading to several dangerous incidents. In one case, she refused to leave a burning building, and in another, her young son Robert nearly drowned in the family swimming pool while she was on a drug binge. She admitted that at one point she acted as a prostitute's tout, bringing clients to sex workers in order to fund her addiction. Recognizing the impact of her addiction, Cole entered rehab in 1983. Her autobiography was later adapted into the made-for-TV movie Livin' for Love, the Natalie Cole story, which aired on NBC on December 10, 2000, and was re-aired on Centric TV on October 26, 2011. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was an American singer, songwriter, dancer, and philanthropist. He was often referred to as the King of Pop. Jackson became one of the most significant cultural figures of the 20th century. His groundbreaking contributions to music, dance, and visual performance reshaped the entertainment industry, setting records that transcended racial barriers and establishing him as a global icon. Jackson popularized innovative dance moves such as the moonwalk, the robot, and the anti-gravity lean, while his music and videos helped shift MTV's focus from rock to pop and R&B, fostering greater racial diversity in its programming. Guinness World Records recognized him as the most successful entertainer of all time. Despite his monumental success, Jackson had a long and complicated history of drug use, particularly with prescription medications. His struggles with pain and sleep disorders led him to rely on a variety of drugs, including propofol, benzodiazepines, and opioids. Propofol, a powerful anesthetic typically used in surgery, was ultimately the direct cause of his death in 2009 when his personal physician, Dr. Conrad Murray, administered a fatal overdose. Murray was later convicted of involuntary manslaughter. Jackson's substance use extended beyond propofol. He also took alprazolam, sertraline, omeprazole, hydrocodone, paroxetine, carisoprodol, and hydromorphone. His access to drugs was facilitated by several doctors who continued to prescribe them, and he reportedly used 19 fake IDs to obtain medication. Throughout his life, Jackson made attempts to address his addiction. In 1993, he entered rehab in an effort to manage his dependence on painkillers. However, despite efforts to remain sober, he continued to struggle with substance abuse. Chaka Khan. Chaka Khan is an American singer, often called the Queen of Funk. Her career has lasted more than 50 years, starting in the early 1970s when she was the lead singer of the funk band Rufus. With the band, she recorded hit songs like Tell Me Something Good, Sweet Thing, Do You Love What You Feel, and Ain't Nobody. When she went solo, her first album featured I'm Every Woman, which later became a big hit for Whitney Houston. She continued to make popular songs, including What Cha Gonna Do For Me. And in 1984, she became the first R&B artist to have a hit song with a rapper when she covered Prince's I Feel For You. Other famous songs by Chaka Khan include Through the Fire and Higher Love, a song she worked on with Steve Winwood that reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 1986. Even though she was very successful, Chaka Khan struggled with drug and alcohol addiction for many years. She has openly talked about her experiences with drugs, saying that she used heroin and cocaine for about 10 years. However, she said in an interview that she never injected drugs. She also struggled with prescription pain medication, especially around the time Prince passed away in 2016. That same year, Chaka and her sister decided to go to rehab to get help for their addiction to pain medication. In a statement released to the Associated Press Sunday, she revealed that she has been battling an addiction to the same medication that led to Prince's death. Prince was found dead at his Minnesota home on April 21st. An autopsy found he died of an overdose of fentanyl, a powerful opioid painkiller. The statement read, "Unfortunately, I will miss concert appearances over the summer. However, it's vital that I put my health and well-being first. I know that I am disappointing some of my fans, but I also know they would want me to recover and be well and healthy." Curtis Mayfield. Curtis Mayfield was an American singer, songwriter, and producer known for his deep, socially conscious music. Often called the gentle genius, he was one of the most influential figures in soul music, using his lyrics to highlight issues affecting African Americans. Mayfield's music career began in a gospel choir, but after moving to Chicago's North Side, he met Jerry Butler at age 14 and joined The Impressions. He became the group's lead singer and songwriter, bringing themes of social justice into soul music. In 1965, he wrote People Get Ready, which later ranked number 24 on Rolling Stone's list of the 500 greatest songs of all time. In the 1970s, Mayfield went solo, releasing several albums, including his debut, Curtis, and the soundtrack for the 1972 film, Superfly. The album was praised for its raw storytelling about crime, poverty, and drug addiction in inner-city communities. But behind his sharp lyrics, some believed Mayfield was writing from personal experience. Though he was known as a socially aware artist, Mayfield was surrounded by the very world he sang about. The 1970s music scene was filled with drug use, and as he created his politically charged music, it became harder to ignore rumors that he dabbled in substances himself. As he captured the dark realities of street life in songs like Freddie's Dead and Pusherman, there were whispers that he wasn't just observing the drug culture, he was part of it. Some close to him suggested that his deep connection to the struggles of addiction in his lyrics was personal. Amy Winehouse. Amy Winehouse was an English singer, songwriter, and musician, known for her deep, expressive contralto vocals and her ability to blend multiple genres, including soul, jazz, reggae, and R&B. She achieved worldwide fame with her album Back to Black, which won multiple Grammy Awards and became one of the best-selling albums of the 21st century. Despite her immense talent and success, Winehouse struggled with substance abuse, addiction, and mental health issues throughout her life. By 2005, she had developed a pattern of heavy drinking and drug use, leading to significant weight loss and erratic behavior. Those close to her noted that the death of her grandmother in 2006, a key stabilizing force in her life, deepened her struggles with addiction. In August 2007, Winehouse was hospitalized for what was reported as an overdose involving heroin, ecstasy, cocaine, ketamine, and alcohol. She canceled several performances in the UK and Europe, citing exhaustion and health concerns. In interviews, she admitted to battling self-harm, depression, and eating disorders. Her battles with addiction became increasingly public, with paparazzi frequently capturing her in distressed states. Despite multiple attempts at rehab, she struggled to maintain sobriety. On July 23, 2011, Winehouse was found unresponsive in her London home. The coroner later confirmed that she had died of alcohol poisoning, with a blood alcohol level more than 5 times the legal driving limit. Amy Winehouse's tragic passing at the age of 27 placed her in the infamous 27 Club, alongside artists like Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, and Kurt Cobain. Which of these singers was your favorite back then? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest content.